Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to discuss solving equations by square roots and solving equations by cubed roots. Our learning targets for today are I can use square roots to solve equations and I can use cubed roots to solve equations. So looking first at solving equations by square roots, I can solve equations by square roots by isolating the variable and by then taking the square root of both sides. So again, I want to isolate my x squared, and then I want to take the square root of both sides. So in this example, I have x squared minus 49 is equal to 0. So again, I want to isolate x squared. In order to get rid of my 49, it's negative, so I do the opposite of negative 49, which would be adding 49. So x squared will equal 49. And then I'll take my square root of x squared. So the square root of x squared is x, and then the square root of 49 is plus or minus 7. Whenever I take the square root of a number, it is always two square roots. So it's always the positive version of the number and the negative version of the number. Because 7 squared is 49, but negative 7 squared would be negative 7 times negative 7, which is also 49. Looking at a few more examples, we'll look at number 1, number 3, number 8, and number 9. Looking at number 1, I have x squared minus 16 equals 0. So again, I want to isolate my variable. So I'm going to get rid of my negative 16 by adding it. So x squared will equal 16. Now I will do my square root. So if I take the square root of both sides, I will get plus or minus 4. So x is equal to plus or minus 4. Looking at number 3, x squared plus 25 is equal to 0. I want to isolate my x squared, so I'll move my 25 over by subtracting it because the opposite of addition is subtraction. So x squared will equal negative 25. Now if I take the square root, notice I cannot take the square root of a negative number. Therefore, number 3 would be no solution. Looking at number 8, I have 3/4 x squared is equal to 48. Here I have a fraction multiplied by my x squared, so I want to use the reciprocal to get rid of my fraction, so I'll multiply by 4/3. So multiplying 48 by 4/3, I'll get x squared is equal to 64. Now again, taking the square root of my x squared, the square root of 64 is plus or minus 8. Number 9, 16x squared equals 25. Now I have 16 multiplied by x squared, so I want to use my opposite operation, which the opposite of multiplication would be division. So I divide by 16. So now I have x squared is equal to 25 over 16. Notice when I take the square root here, the square root of 25 over 16, that's two perfect squares. So I can split up my square root of 25 divided by 16 as x is equal to the square root of 25 divided by the square root of 16. And now if I notice as well, the square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 16 is 4. And again, remember, always remember my square root, whenever I take the square root of something, I get a positive and a negative number. So for 9, we have x equals plus or minus 5/4. Now, if I want to solve equations using cubed roots, I'll use the same process as square. Instead of taking the square of both sides, I'll take the cube root of both sides. So again, I'm going to isolate my variable. Then I'm going to take the cubed root of each side. So looking at this example, I have x cubed minus 125 is equal to 0. So again, I want to isolate my variable. So I'm going to add 125. When I add 125, I'll get x cubed is equal to 125. Now taking the cubed root of 125, I will get x is equal to 5. In this case, I don't have plus or minus, because if I were to have plus or minus, notice 5 times 5 times 5 is 125, but negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5 is negative 125, and I don't have negative 125, I have positive 125. So when I take the cubed root of something, I will only get one answer. Looking at examples 2, 5, 8, and 10, if we look at 2 first, I have x cubed plus 64 is equal to 0. Again, isolating my variable, I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides. So I will have x cubed is equal to negative 64. Now taking the cubed root of negative 64, that will give me x is equal to negative 4. Number 5, x cubed minus 10 is equal to negative 226. Again, isolating my variable, I'll add 10 to both sides. So x cubed will equal negative 216. If I take the cubed root of negative 216, I will get x is equal to negative 6. Number 8, I have 3/4 x cubed is equal to 48. So now I want to multiply here by my reciprocal of 4/3 to get rid of my fraction of 3/4. So if I multiply by 4/3 on both sides, I will get x cubed is equal to 64. Now if I take the cubed root of x cubed and the cubed root of 64, I will get x is equal to 4. And number 10, I have 125 x cubed is equal to 8. So I have multiplication with my variable. In order to get rid of the multiplication, I will use division. So I will divide by 125. So x cubed is equal to 8 divided by 125. Notice when I take the cubed root of this, 8 and 125 are both perfect cubes, so I will get x is equal to the cubed root of 8, which is 2, and the cubed root of 125, which is 5. So I will. In this lesson we learned, when solving equations by square roots, isolate the variable, then take the square root of both sides. When solving equations by cubed roots, isolate the variable, then take the cubed root of both sides. That's a wrap on this video. We'll see you in the next one.